Welcome to Mishna study Masachet Shevuot Perek Daled Mishnah Daled. Over here in this Mishnah, we're going to discuss if two witnesses deny knowledge together. Okay, so both of them, Kafru Shenehem Ke'achat, both witnesses together, they both say, I don't know what you're talking about. I swear I don't know what you're talking about. I never saw this. Shenehem Hayavim. They're both Hayav. Zeh achar zeh. If it's one after the next, Harishon Hayav. Only the first one is going to be Hayav. Why? Because once the first one swears, right? Only he is the one that's affecting the testimony, right? The second witness can't do anything without the first, right? Once the first one swears and he lies, that's it. Right? He says that I don't know anything about it, right? The second witness doesn't have a group. You need two witnesses in order to testify. So they only the Rishon, only the first one's going to be Hayav. Now, how much is this time? We say if they do it together at once, then they're both going to be Hayav. If it's one after the next, then only the first is Hayav. So Rambam says, when you say they do it at once, it's toch kedei dibur. Right? In order, right? It's for speech. Like in the amount, it's, in order to speak. How much is that? So the Gemara says it's shi'ur of she'elat talmid shalom l'rav. Right? For a student to come and say, Shalom alecha Rabbi. Right, what is that? 2-3 seconds? That's toch kedei dibur. If they say it within 2-3 seconds of each other, then it's going to be considered as one kefira. Longer than that, it's considered one after the next. Now, hayushte kiter edim. Now, if you have two groups, right? So you have two groups of witnesses. One group of two, another group of two. Kafra rishona, the first group was kofer. V'harka kafra sheniya. And then the second group also denies. Shetehen hayavot. They're both hayav. Because the testimony could stand with both of them. Okay, now Rambam points out, and over here really summarizes a lot of the Gemara, that there's a condition over here. That any time that the first group, right? Anytime the second group is able to testify, the first group is not going to be obligated hayav for their denial. Right? Because as long as the second group's around, the first group could say, we know there's someone else after us. So we didn't think what we were doing was anything wrong. There's another group of edim that are right after us, so we didn't think we were really going to affect the outcome of the case. Now, the second group also won't be hayav unless they denied, they were kofer, after they knew that the first group also were kofer, right? Because they also could say, there's another group of edim also that could testify. We didn't think we were affecting the outcome of the case. So both of them have to do so after the first group. Okay, so now, when are we going to have a case of shtem hayavot? Both groups are going to be hayav. So Rambam says, this is talking about a case where you have the first group, you have one group of witnesses, and then you have the second group of witnesses, they're brother-in-laws. They both married sisters. Okay? And the sister, both of their wives, the sisters, are gosesot, like they're on their deathbed at the time when the first group were kofer, made their denial. Okay. Afterwards, the two wives died. And then the second group were kofer also. The same on the edut, on the testimony as well. Okay, so we could have thought that the first group, they could say, the first group is Petura. We'll say they're Patur. Why? Because they'd say that without us, we still had another group of witnesses. Why? Because they had their wives were on their deathbed. They're probably going to die, right? And if they're brother-in-laws, they're Pasul Edut. They can't testify as a group. Right? Most people who are goses, they're going to die. So since we knew they were about to die, and if they die, then the husbands are going to be allowed to testify together. So when we were kofer, we knew there's another group after us that could testify, and therefore we say no, that's not the case. When they were kofer, that's it. They lost their they lost the zechut, and because at the time there was no other group. Therefore, the first group is hayav, and then when the second group does it afterwards, after the two wives die, and there are officially afterwards a group of kosher witnesses, and they are kofir, then they also are going to be hayav, and that's the one instance where we could set up the Mishnah where both groups of edim would be hayav.